here as our sister community and have been helping to lead services by serving as readers. Our reader tonight, co-leading the service, will be Tricia Schnell, who helps Machar in so many ways, including her able editing of our bi-monthly newsletter. Thank you for agreeing to be our reader for today's service. Our speaker from the community tonight is Mike Sandler, who will speak on our evening's theme of Reconsider. Our choir has provided performances for tonight, as have 3 different soloists for Kol Nidre. We thank them in advance, as well as Renee Weitzner and Leah Morris for their contribution to tonight's music as well. And thank you to all of you for coming and taking a little bit of a risk on online high holiday services. A note about Zoom's chat feature. We know you want to be able to interact with each other. The problem is there are Nazis and other people out there who like to use the chat feature to Zoom bomb. And so we have disabled the chat feature for security purposes only. However, we will have a breakout session during the service so that you can check in with a few people. Things being what they are, I would like not to appear in the Washington Post and Moment magazine again because Machar was Zoom bombed, which has actually happened. A final note, we are going to be using a version of the service book that if you downloaded it in advance, you're not necessarily going to completely recognize what you see on screen because what we'll be putting on screen has been adjusted to provide additional readability on computer screens for individuals who have a hard time reading smaller type. So the text will be on a lightly colored and it will be on a black background. When it looks like this, there's nothing wrong with your computer, I promise. This is an intentional choice to be able to make the text as accessible as possible. The page numbers will be different for those who've already downloaded. I will call out page numbers based on the page numbers you printed out. I'm going to go ahead and share that document now. And we will begin with the choir leading us in Hine Matov.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת עמים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת עמים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת עמים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת עמים גם יחד.
Thank you, everybody. As I said, we do have kind of a slightly different colored book for us today. And Hine Matov translates to, behold how good and pleasant it is for people to dwell together in unity. And we are, for those following the print booklet, on page 3. As evening casts its shadows over the earth, ushering in this most significant day, our thoughts join with those of other Jews throughout the world.
We put aside petty concerns and vain desires. We ask ourselves important questions. What is our life? And of what avail is our strength? What is our wealth? And to what purpose our power? How can we control the course of our lives? What is our future?
Together, on this Kol Nidre night, bound by the long memories of our people, we are united with generations past, recalling the lives of our forebears, We cast aside pretense and reveal our vulnerability. Amid the uncertainties of life, we seek peace within ourselves and with other people. And we will now light candles. If you have candles that you would like, you may absolutely do so. If you don't have candles, that's okay. I have them. I will read the Hebrew for each, and Trish, our reader, will read the English for each. Nivarech et haor ba'olam, nivarech et haor ba'adam, nivarech et haor shel yom tov.
Let us bless the light in the world. Let us bless the light in humanity. Let us bless the light of Shabbat and of the holiday.
There's no Shabbat in the Hebrew, but Yom Kippur is designated as a Shabbat by the Torah. Nivarech kol dor vador shehechayanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Let us bless each generation that gave us life, sustained us, and brought us to this time. In the year to come, may we succeed in examining our lives and in living with our realities.
Or zarua latzadikim uliyishre lev simcha, and together, or zarua latzadikim uliyishre lev simcha. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the just in heart.
Let us celebrate the light of the candles.
Together, they burn for us. They reflect the hope in our hearts. May they light our way in the years to come. And we will join together as we're led by the choir in Efo Ori.
Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you.
Kol Nidre is not a prayer, but a chant. It is concerned with the importance of vows, oaths, and promises of human behavior.
In the 5th chapter of Ecclesiastes, the author says, "It is better not to vow at all than to vow and not fulfill." But our forebears understood the need for escape clauses in human intentions. For despite good intentions, all of us make promises we cannot keep.
Jewish tradition has established that unfulfilled promises and commitments to other people require forgiveness from those wronged. This is the cornerstone of the secular humanistic Jewish view of Yom Kippur. Human interaction is the highest form of relationship, and it is only at this level that forgiveness and interpersonal rebuilding can be undertaken.
We read together Kol Nidre, a meditation. Kol Nidre, chant of ages, chant of Israel, chant of sorrow, measuring off the throbbing heartbeats of a people bowed in anguish, crushed by tyrants, thwarted, broken, wandering ever, homeless, weary.
Generations, set your motif out of trials, hopes, and yearnings. added each its variations to your theme and to your cadence. Diverse lands and diverse periods poured their soul into your music.
Together, when we hearken with our hearts tuned, we can hear the lamentations through time's corridor resounding. We can see revealed before us heroes, martyrs, saints, and scholars, loyal, steadfast people of Israel. Before we hear our several renditions of Kol Nidre, a word about the text and its use. Kol Nidre as a text has a difficult history. Those seeking to persecute Jews have used it to claim that Jews are untrustworthy, as though not trusting someone could somehow justify killing other people. Many medieval rabbis in particular disliked the Kol Nidre, not so much because they were concerned about persecution. They believed that not enough was known about making oaths in the Torah, and they were concerned that people they sometimes called common ignoramuses would take Kol Nidre as carte blanche to make facile promises or to cheat other people. There are lots of different versions of the Kol Nidre text, some of which are not even grammatically correct. They all have something in common. Except for the very earliest versions of Kol Nidre, every version of Kol Nidre is written primarily in Aramaic. They're not in Hebrew, and this is important for two reasons. First, the rabbis of the Talmud appear to have believed Aramaic was not to be used for private liturgical purposes. Their hypothesis rests on no small amount of superstition. They believed that ministering angels listened to individuals' prayers but also did not understand Aramaic. Thus, Aramaic recited in private would not be transmitted upward on the divine chain of command. This is why nearly every Aramaic text you find in a traditional prayer book is only recited when there is a minyan, a quorum of 10 people, including all of the Kaddishes, all of which are primarily in Aramaic. Second, by the time Kol Nidre was coming into use, Hebrew was a scholar's language, not a common person's language, just as Kol Nidre's words were the words of common people and not the rabbis who disapproved of reciting Kol Nidre. This hidden background is part of what has kept Kol Nidre part of our High Holidays vocabulary. Kol Nidre is at bottom a common person's text, and one that by virtue of the very language it is written in, Aramaic, not Hebrew, is intended to draw us into community together. And it touches on a very basic fear we all share, that we will fail. It is in some ways the most democratic thing about the High Holidays, a custom of common Jews rather than Jewish elites in a common person's language, both by dialect and occasionally by grammar, and intended for the entire community to share, again by virtue of the dialect in which it is written. Tonight we will hear 3 different renditions of Kol Nidre, each capturing a different aspect of the motivation behind the text and the reasons for its continued vitality among Jews throughout the world. Peter Wolf, who has in years past performed Kol Nidre live for us, has prepared a video of him doing so again, and he will sing our traditional Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre esamei v'chalamei v'kinomei v'kinuyei v'kinusei ushbut v'indana unishtabana ulakaremna b'li asana anapsata ana Yom Kippurim ze ad Yom Kippurim habaleinu letova kulhon ikarat labehon kulhon Yehon Betalin Vutalin Lashelirin Vla Kayamin Nidra la Nidre Vesalana la Sale Ushavuatana la Shavuot.
For those of us who were following along in the printed books, we are now on page 6. The traditional Kol Nidre translates thus: all personal vows we are likely to make, all personal oaths and pledges we are likely to take between this Yom Kippur and the next Yom Kippur, we publicly renounce. Let them be relinquished and abandoned, null and void, neither firm nor established. Let our personal vows, pledges, and oaths be considered neither vows nor pledges nor oaths. Together, here we stand, heirs of the past and creators of the future. Let us open our eyes to wisdom with a new heart, a new spirit, and a new resolve.
Once more, Yom Kippur has come, and we strive to rid ourselves of self-pretense. We stand now between the day that was and the one that will be. In the year gone by, what did we take? What did we give? To what were we blind?
Together, our passion shall now be for wisdom, love and truth shall we find, justice and peace we shall embrace, and our impulse for good shall prevail.
Kol Nidre, chant of ages, chant of pain and chant of pathos. Mingled with your notes of sorrow are notes of joyous exaltation.
Kol Nidre, chant of the ages, chant of grief and chant of triumph, echoing this night of memories in the ears and hearts of Israel, as once again we draw together. With your plaintive chant, Kol Nidre, rise our hopes for the dawn of peace, when all hearts are purged of hatred, passions, and lusts that rend asunder, so that all may stand together. May our hearts and minds be open to what this day asks of us. May we be prepared to listen with our minds and our hearts. As in prior years, we have an instrumental rendition of the Kol Nidre from Machar member and choir accompanist very frequently, Harry Appelman. Thank you, Harry, for that rendition of Kol Nidre. There is no translation for Music of the Heart, and so I will not attempt to translate Harry's Kol Nidre performance. Instead, we're going to take a moment to get into breakout rooms of about 4 or 5 logins each, and just take a moment to greet one another and talk over what you may have reconsidered over the course of the high holidays or of the year just finished, and what plans you might have to address those things. Obviously, participation in the breakout rooms is entirely voluntary, so if you don't hit the button to join the breakout room, you'll just have to hang around here looking at those of us who don't join the breakout rooms because we're doing administrative stuff. So, Tara, when we're ready, let's send them on their way. Welcome back, those of you who have already left breakout rooms. The other breakout rooms will be closing in probably about 30 seconds, and we will resume with the rest of our service. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you maybe met somebody new or somebody that you hadn't talked to in a while during the breakout room, and that your discussion was at least productive, if not highly inspiring. For those following along in the printed version of the book, we're around page 7. We began this year, as all years, with promises and good intentions for improving our lives. Too many promises have been forgotten, too many hopes not realized. Together, who will hear our regrets? Who will open our prison and set us free? To whom can we raise our voices?
As we accept our imperfections and confirm our hopes, we grow in ethical and moral strength. With a sense for life's potential, we move beyond finding fault to seeking new opportunities for growth.
What can we learn from the Kol Nidre? We must avoid making empty vows. We must commit ourselves to deeds rather than words. We will strip away old habits. We will be open to change. Our final Kol Nidre rendition is a humanistic Kol Nidre recorded and performed by Greg Greisa.
Kol nidre ve'asare v'karame v'koname v'kinu ye v'kinu se'u shvuot dina dana Udai Shabana Udakarimna Vadi Asarana Laman Ahava Utsadaka Ihayu Kayamim.
If you would, let's please take a moment to thank Peter, Harry, and Greg for their renditions of Kol Nidre tonight. I give a golf clap not for irony, but because I just don't want my microphone to start booming all over the greater DC area. When we read the traditional Kol Nidre, I read it aloud in its translation. Not everybody likes the traditional Kol Nidre. Not everybody feels as though they can affirm what it says. However, the humanistic Kol Nidre makes different demands of us, and so let's join together and read it now in English. All personal vows we make, all personal oaths and pledges we may take, that are made for love and for righteousness, we affirm and accept. We began this year, as all years, with promises and good intentions for improving our lives.
Too many promises have been forgotten. Too many hopes not realized. As the promises were ours, forgiveness must be ours.
Together, as we accept our imperfections and affirm our hopes, we grow in ethical and moral strength. With a sense for life's potential, we move beyond finding fault or blame to seeking new opportunities for growth.
While we may have a modern philosophical outlook, we are not so different from our ancestors. The underlying ideas of the Kol Nidre still possess significance for us today. These are the sincere longing for a clear conscience, the release from feelings of guilt, the recognition of the sacredness of the promised word, and the desire to be absolved from vows which could not be carried out.
How many of us have fulfilled all that we have vowed? Who among us has not broken a heartfelt promise? Together, I hereby forgive those who have hurt me, whether deliberately or by accident. As I forgive and pardon fully those who have wronged me, may those whom I have harmed in any way also forgive and pardon me. And may I not willfully repeat the wrongs I have committed in the past, and lovingly forgive myself as I forgave and was forgiven by others.
May tolerance and justice light our days. May tolerance and justice light the world.
Our community speaker tonight is Mike Sandler. Mike will talk about the theme of reconsideration. Mike has an extensive background in environmental affairs, and I am rather well informed that that will be part of what he talks about tonight.
Thank you. Reconsider. A crisis is a good time to reconsider our lifestyles, habits, and the world around us. When things are going well, why should we stop to reconsider? But things aren't going very well right now. Or, we didn't ask for this crisis. Or maybe we did. Scientists think that the coronavirus may have been passed from an animal to a human, what's called a zoonotic disease. Maybe it was transmitted from a bat or another exotic animal at a street market in China. From what I've read, the case is not closed on that yet. But our society had to be set up in a certain way for this crisis to take hold. Maybe we should reconsider some of those things. The way we treat animals, how we fund public health efforts and first medical responders, whether we listen to scientists and what priority we give to agencies such as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, state and county public health departments, and pandemic response teams at the World Health Organization. We can influence those things in November by electing people to office that hold the same types of values that we do. And I guess I should include not committing tax fraud on that list, but maybe that's just me. Okay, I got that out of the way. Sorry it took so long to get there. I considered putting that plea in the very first sentence, but I'm literally preaching to the choir here. And I can tell you're all laughing even though you're muted. So I will also be stepping out of my comfort zone and preaching to a close relative of mine who lives in a swing state and needs some preaching too. And I'll be asking them to reconsider. But back to how a crisis can make reconsidering easier. What an understatement to say that our routines have been disrupted and to say that we now have more downtime. We are now less rushed. There's something nice about that part, actually, if you're not unemployed and about to be evicted and freaking out, that is. I enjoyed the quiet of fewer cars on the Beltway, and I enjoyed not having to be in one of those cars. Let's reconsider commuting. I had some out-of-state summer vacations planned, but instead I just took 2 small trips within 100 miles. I would also love to reconsider screen time, but I don't know if we can put the internet back inside the genie's bottle. I will say that although I've been spending more time on screens, I have been reducing my time on social media. Sometimes the reconsidering involves baby steps. In some ways, I'm dreading the reopening. I don't want things to go back to how they were. I want a newer, fresher, more sustainable, more caring world. And if it isn't that, and it ends up being a crueler, harsher, more stressed out world, then I almost want everything to stay shut down, to really reboot the system. But I don't think that will happen. I mean the staying shut down. We will reopen again. The question is how. Machar has been a support system for me and my kids in this time of disruption. So I thank you all for being here to be a support system for what I thought were my sort of outside of the box beliefs. For example, there may not be a white bearded old guy zapping lightning bolts at us from the clouds, but that even so, Jewish culture has a lot of value to contribute to my kids' upbringing. It took me several rounds of reconsidering to get to where I am right now. At Machar, those beliefs are not strange, and I don't have to apologize for thinking them. In fact, let's turn the tables, and maybe the others have some things to reconsider. Let's use this crisis to reconsider our habits, lifestyles, what works and what doesn't, support Black Lives Matter and the fight for racial justice, and all the other facets of justice that we don't have right now. I'm not sure there is any arc of the moral universe and if it bends toward justice or bends anywhere, but let's keep building community and keep encouraging each other to reconsider. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I can actually vouch for Mike spending less time on social media. I hardly ever see him on Facebook anymore, which tells you that I spend too much time on Facebook. For those following along in print, we are on page 9. For those following along on the screen, we're on page 15, but that's a somewhat academic distinction for you. We've reached a section that's called Standing Up for What We Believe. You do not have to stand up for this portion. It is metaphorical. Were we together physically in a single place, we might stand up. If you choose to stand up, that is entirely up to you. Shema Yisrael, Echad Ameinu, Adam Echad. And together, Shema Yisrael, Echad Ameinu, Adam Echad. Hear, O Israel, our people is one, humanity is one.
Therefore, we strive to lead loving, compassionate lives with our heart, with our wisdom, and with our actions. These words we inscribe on our innermost heart. We aspire to practice them day and night, teaching them diligently to our children through our words and especially through our deeds, so that the next generations learn to revere and celebrate life.
We've reached a section that's titled Humanistic Viduyim. Viduyim is the Hebrew word for confessionals. Our confessionals will not be a long cataloging of sins in alphabetical order, but rather will focus on some of the things we actually do know we fail on, sometimes in big ways and sometimes in small. And we'll begin with Binim Heller's poem, Perhaps. Binim Heller was inspired to write this by the trials imposed by the Stalinist regime on Soviet writers in 1952.
Perhaps. Perhaps part of the blame falls on me, because I kept silent, uttered no cry. Fear froze my heart and confused my mind, and I did not resist the lie. My clear voice was choked and dumb, and I allowed them without protest to outrage and violate what was dearest to me, holiest.
Together, cowardice came down and walked the earth. We hid our true feelings from one another. We did not hear the cry of a friend, and our own cry we often had to smother. Black suspicion, like the plague, murdered faith and left hearts cold. Courage was branded treason. Betrayal was called heroic, bold.
The courts were ordered what verdicts to give. Trials were secret, the results never in doubt. Light hung its head in shame, waiting that at least one man should cry out.
No, but no one cried. Before he formed the word, could articulate, his head was broken and his tongue torn out. Only one thing was left, the patience to wait. Together, to wait that justice might prevail one day. Perhaps that was part of my blame, that I kept silent, did not speak, as though I had nothing to say. And we can join together with the choir as it leads us in the song B'Makom.
במקום שאין אנשים, השתדל להיות איש. במקום שאין אנשים, השתדל להיות איש. במקום שאין אנשים, להיות איש במקום שאין אנשים, ישתדל להיות איש.
Deep in the center of this holiday is the concept of commitment, individual and communal. If the year does not begin fresh with hope and clean of wrongdoing, then we suffer and the community suffers. But the choice is ours. It is not foreordained. The world of possibilities is born again each year. Perhaps all of us in our relationships, to ourselves, to our loved ones, and to our society, need to reevaluate our sense of commitment. We also need to reevaluate society's commitment to us. Perhaps this symbolizes the true meaning of Yom Kippur for us, to assume responsibility for all that we want and all that we are.
Among the many views of Yom Kippur is one that says that Yom Kippur is a dress rehearsal for death. This, the idea goes, explains the fasting and those who wear a kittel, a plain white robe that resembles a traditional burial shroud.
Jeremy, we can barely hear you.
Sorry. Better? Okay. There's a lot of volume knobs on my end. Among the many views of Yom Kippur is one that says Yom Kippur is a dress rehearsal for death. This, the idea goes, explains the practices of fasting and wearing a kittel, a plain white robe that resembles a traditional burial shroud. Yet repentance, regret, and renewal are needs of the living and not the dead. So too is remembrance. I am not sure whether Renee Weitzner's microphone is working at this point. She indicated that it might be having difficulty. And so we will go ahead and play Liam Morris's video, which makes a song from Renee's poem, Dust.
Why are you wiping up the dust? Why do you want it gone away? Isn't it just pieces of us that slough off as we make our way? Why are we so afraid of dust? Cleaning the tables and the shelves. Thus ends the tale of each of us. It's time we reckon with ourselves. We are dust. We're only here for a minute. Then time will swipe us from the page. And earth will shake us off her sleeve. And in a while there'll be no trace of all we've worshipped and believed. But maybe an echo in the wind. dust. We're only here for a minute. Is there a signpost? Is there some last hope that could keep us going on? Our fate is written in the dust. Even if science finds a way, and through its fleeting life calls us to make the best of every day. Well, we all must. We all must make the best while we're in it. We're only here for a minute.
Thank you, Renee, for allowing us to use the text of your poem. And thank you to Leah for performing that rendition of the song. As we approach the close of our service, we stop to remember those whom we've lost with our Kaddish for this evening. Nitgadal v'nitkadash beruach ha'adam.
Let us enhance and exalt ourselves in the spirit of humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May healing and peace permeate and comfort all of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so.
It is tradition that most Kaddishes you find end with a tune known as Na'aseh Shalom or Ya'aseh Shalom, depending upon who's singing it and when. We use a version of the song from the founder of humanistic Judaism, Rabbi Sherwin Wein. Na'aseh Shalom ba'olam, Na'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru, imru shalom, Na'aseh Shalom ba'olam, Na'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru, imru shalom, Na'aseh Shalom, Na'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, Na'aseh Shalom, Na'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, Na'aseh Shalom, Na'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, Na'aseh Shalom, Na'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, Na'aseh Shalom, Na'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam. As early as the biblical period, there was recognition that fasting was meaningless without true change and movement toward justice. Our final reading tonight reminds us of the true task ahead. But before we begin that, we're getting to the last reading, and so I know a lot of people know what's coming next. I see heads bobbing and saying announcements. Gratitude is owed to the many people involved in making our High Holiday services work. Volunteering to work the door are Machar's board president, Larry Lawrence, board member Nadine Wetstein, and adult education committee member Joyce Frieden Rosenthal. Also working the digital door is our congregational administrator, Tara Newhouse. Thank you to Trish Schnell for co-leading our service tonight, and to Mike Sandler for his talk on our theme and his focus on changes we can make to secure our future. Thanks as well to our sister community, the Baltimore Jewish Cultural Chavurah, for their participation in making our holidays happen. Thank you as well to Machar's board for going on a rather giant adventure of bringing Machar online very quickly. Thank you to Peter Wolf, Harry Appelman, and Greg Greisa for their performances of Kol Nidre for us tonight. Thanks as well to Renee Weitzner and Leah Morris for the poem and song Dust. Thanks are due as well to the choir members for their work recording music for our holiday commemorations. Joy Markowitz, Joanna Pratt, Joyce Frieden Rosenthal, Keith Campbell Rosen, Laura Ariovich, and Barbara Bernstein. Thanks to Jacob Barron for providing invaluable technical assistance in getting all of these videos recorded, to Harry Appelman for his excellent piano accompaniment, and to Joanna Pratt, Steve Samuels, and Evan Samuels for technical work connected to getting music to happen. The guitar player on the few songs involving guitar has asked to remain anonymous. And finally, our thanks go to you for joining us as we mark the beginning of Yom Kippur. Rachel Hanadari, our Bar Mitzvah class teacher, will lead the family and children's service tomorrow morning, and we are grateful for her continued enthusiasm, time, and energy in ensuring that the youngest of our community members are able to mark the holiday in a way that works for them. We have a lot more for you tomorrow, including more music and Hank Prensky blowing shofar for us, and a guest speaker from outside the Machar community. If you are logged on to this service, you have also received the link for tomorrow's services. Please join us if you are able. Right around now, were we together in one room, I'd be making my way toward the back to greet everyone. We can't do that today. However, I'm happy to answer questions, arrange conversations, and would love to get to know you if you're new to us. Please don't hesitate to send me a message by email at rabbi@machar.org, or find us on Facebook and send us a message, because I see that inbox too. If you're new to Machar, or even if you're not, please take a look at our website for updates on programming for kids and adults. And with that, we turn to our closing reading, The Desirable Fast. The prophets of ancient Israel were more than anything else astute observers of their society's behavior. And like modern persons, they were quick to note when the holier-than-thou displayed hypocrisy, fasting on Yom Kippur and then oppressing the downtrodden the next day. Whether you are fasting tomorrow or not, the message of Yom Kippur is in some ways the same. It is left to us to take the actions we need to make next year better than the one just ended. If you are fasting tomorrow, I hope you have an easy fast. And Tricia Schnell will take us out by reading and leading us in reading The Desirable Fast.
This is the fast we must undertake: to break unjust fetters, to let the oppressed go free, to share your bread with the hungry and shelter the homeless poor. If you do away with the yoke, the clenched fist, the wicked word, if you give your bread to the hungry and relief to the oppressed, your light will rise in the darkness.
We will see, I hope, all of you, but as many of you as is possible, tomorrow morning for our Yom Kippur services. We are also doing a special evening event tomorrow around 6 p.m. You're welcome to join that. It is part of the Yom Kippur package, as it were. It will be focused on discussion rather than a centralized service. With that, those who are fasting, I wish you an easy fast. Everyone else, I hope that you have a meaningful holiday, and I hope I'll see very many of you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.